Anybody else? Good morning. I'd like to call the June meeting of the Teton County Library Board to order. Present, we have Nina Lenz, Mary Lee White, Peter Stalker, Stan Steiner. We're expecting Lisa McGee to join us, and then we have other members of library staff and foundation. So thank you very much. I'd like to move to approve the June 15th, 2023 regular board meeting agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Their next order is the approval of the minutes of the May 18th, 2023 regular board meeting. I was not present at that meeting, so I'd love a motion from somebody who was.
I so move.
To approve the minutes of the May
Yeah,
regular board meeting as presented.
yes.
Okay.
That sounds
Is there a second of that? Any discussion, any changes, comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Is there any public comment on any matters? I don't think we have any. Nope. Yes, I would. Well, that's public comment. I guess I could, but just, well, I'd like to actually, I was gonna do this for Mary Lee, later, but Loco, thank you for joining the board. This is great. Mary Lee is here starting her term, which is great. She's gonna get a preview of things to come today.
Yeah, I'll hold on to my seat.
And we have two more board members that will be joining as new board members in July 1st. And Vicky, hi, good morning.
Hi there.
The board almost.
The board almost, yeah.
Thank you. And Lisa's joined us as well.
Good.
Correspondence, I didn't see any.
We didn't have any.
Well, of course.
You didn't see it.
Perfect. Would anybody other than I like to pull some things from the consent agenda? I would like to pull the financial documents, please. But I guess that's it. It's in there. So we're gonna pull them. And so but before we get to that, I actually would like to recognize one of our board members who unfortunately had to resign earlier this year. Sean Clarence is here with us today, and he has served this board very, very well. And he was, I know, very disappointed that he couldn't finish out his term. But we are very, very grateful for your service, and wanted to thank you for everything that you've done. And we have, I think the foundation and the library have gotten together to present you with a little bit of a thank you for all that service. So
Thank you. I just
go ahead.
just now since I can get there so quickly. I know probably most of you have heard that I've received a pretty grave cancer diagnosis over the past few weeks, and that is scary and discouraging and all of those things. But thank you, Kip. What I'm really, it's hard to be too upset about it because this life has been such an incredible gift. To have come here, it'll be 29 years ago this August. I came here with a cheap car, some credit card debt, and a promise of a couch that I could depend on. And somehow turned that into the most beautiful, fulfilling life. And my dreams and aspirations, like what I wanted to do more than anything as a child, was write books. And somehow someone bought one of my books, paid me money, said, let's pay this knucklehead some money for this book. It's on the shelf here. Like my dream came true. Like, how could I ask for more than that? All of these things have been gifts. My wife's a gift, my family's a gift. I worry about them as this plays out. Serving on this board has been a gift, and I'm terribly disappointed that the things that have gone on over the past months have kind of impacted my ability to serve. I'm especially disappointed that I'm not going to be able to complete my term. Though you might find it a gift, especially after the way I mangled Robert's Rules of Order in Peter's stead. You might actually have some gratitude for that. I thank you all so much, and this has been such an honor and such a privilege. So
Thank you, Sean.
thank you, Sean. And we can. It's gonna be the Sean Parents Memorial Owl. This was my one contribution.
I'm not sure if we love that.
At least I know.
This is our second one because we broke the first one.
Wait a minute, nobody told me that.
Anyway, John, you are more than welcome to stay, but if you,
I think I will take leave, but I appreciate it so much. Thank you all for your love and caring and kindness.
and I do want that cup of coffee, so that's.
Yes, and please feel free to reach out. You've got my contact info, so I would love to hear from any and all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Best to your family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys take care.
Thank you. I guess since I pulled the financials, that's the next thing to talk about, which is very anticlimactic relative to that. I apologize.
We'll cry over that instead.
Yeah, exactly. Stella, would you like to, just if you wanted to touch on your highlights, I have some questions about the revenue side, but if you'd like to touch on highlights, that'd be great.
Sure. There are some accounts that we have gone a little bit over at this point in the fiscal year. However, when we look at the overall budget, we're still in good shape, and I anticipate that we will be in good shape when we close out the books for the year. An example of that is actually, I was talking to Kip about this yesterday. For example, our capital reserves fund, we had actually transferred 150,000 this early in the fiscal year. And so it appears like that fund is over, but that money actually went into our capital reserve account.
Right.
So that's an example. And I guess Peter, I will open it up.
So you talked about the revenue shortfall through the end of May from the county and how there's about 100,000 and change. I don't have the number exactly in front of me. That you know is coming back. That will still leave us short by over $100,000. We are roughly 200 and back and pull it up in this thing. We are roughly $200,000 shy on our revenue. At the or am I misreading that? For the year? We were gonna make $100,000 off of that in June. I was looking at your financial narrative. Maybe I'm not. So you said this is the revenue report from Treasurer shows projected income from the county reimbursement of 3.2 million, whereas the approved budget revenue is 3.849, $500,000 from the library reserve account. And I presume that's not our capital reserve. That's our regular reserve account is coming over. The remaining 130,535 will be added to the library account. When I went and took that back down to the actual financial numbers, I was $100,000 shy. Is that my math problem, or are you not worried about our hitting our revenue target?
I'm sorry, I didn't notice that amount. We will also be getting though our reimbursement for June.
In July.
Correct.
Okay.
So I don't know if maybe that's where that.
I think that probably is it.
And the 500,000, it's my understanding from my conversation with Katie Smits is that Alyssa Watkins, when we brought over our funds over to the county, it was decided that we had enough there this year that they took that 500,000. So that's how that decision was made.
Okay. Are you, I mean, we've had this I guess, transition with the county in terms of the timing of their getting you information and some of the reimbursement accounts. Are you happy with how that is evolving? And so the hiccups that we may have seen throughout this past fiscal year as you're going into the new one, do you think we're gonna be behind? I think we're gonna be ahead of most of those this upcoming year.
Overall, I feel like it is working. This week in particular was a little stressful because the reports did not come out until Monday afternoon, which is actually we've seen that happen before, but it's usually not quite this late. However, I think I'm learning more tips and tricks when I get the reports in terms of how to then more quickly and readily enter that information into QuickBooks. So I think that hopefully between my learning more tips and tricks to get that information that we will be able to get the information to the board in a timely fashion. There are probably a couple of things I might want to discuss with Katie and Mo regarding some of the way that some of our reporting structure is and how I'm entering it in QuickBooks and some of the accounts that they may have. So we might do a few more tweaks, I think.
Do you have a regular person that you interface with? Is it in the county, or is that variable and that is that leading to the challenges?
It's variable in terms of what the questions are. So there's some questions that I'll send directly to Mo Murphy. There is one person who processes our check payments. So if I have questions there, I'm able to go directly to Jason. Then in the treasurer's department, there's two staff that when we make cash deposits, we work with those two individuals in our credit card deposits. And then the reports come from a different person.
Right.
So there's several individuals, but I pretty much know who to go to in terms
So
of
from their side, they're not seeing the whole picture, but from your side, you've seen the whole picture and figure out who it is that you need to.
Yes, I would say that's.
It's to your
Yeah,
long-standing.
yeah, well, yeah.
Revenue and expense sides.
Well, they're two separate sides of the county, and then they only come together at the county administrator's office, so it's a challenge. I'm sorry, that's all I had, and where everything else is looking like. I mean, it looked like on the expense side, we were plus or minus where we could be, so.
I had just a small question. It's gonna take me a while to understand this whole process, but I was just curious about the bank charges, why they're so much more than was budgeted. Did something change or?
Yes, so we, so a couple of things happened in the last year. We had one company called ProPay that we used to do our credit card transactions through, and we had to change that company. The company that we went to now, we recently purchased some like swipe credit card readers for the public desks. And what happened was when we purchased those, we thought we'd get billed for those, like by an invoice, and it turns out that they just automatically deducted that cost from our overall account in April. So therefore, that's why the bank charges are more, because it came through as a bank charge on the treasurer's end. But I'm going to ask them if they can actually change that account fund that it was deducted from to what we call our small hardware fund, which is where if we had received a bill, we would have paid it out of that fund. So
it's more categorization than it is.
yeah, so that was about $1,200, I think it was, so.
And for context, up until the time when accounts were moved over, basically the process is moved over to the county 2 Januaries ago. We have our sets of accounts that we have had coded in QuickBooks. The county's on a different system. And they basically have a huge run that we then take and put it back into our terminology so that everybody going forward can have an apples to apples is what's going on over the past. Well, since before I was here. And so some of this is they're categorizing something in their way and are having to come back and put it into the way that we would like to look at it.
Got it. So we get the report from the county and to
Read.
look at, plus we get all the the QuickBooks documents as well.
So we generate the QuickBooks.
Yeah,
The county is the one that generates all of the stuff back to us. We take that and then put it back into our QuickBooks format. And it's quite burdensome to do that, but it's now gotten much better. And it's a way of keeping consistency, so you can actually look back and see what the library's, how the library has changed in its operations over the last 3 or 5 years. And it actually is a management tool, I think, that leadership uses, and that staff is used to using as well. Yeah,
If you look at the balance sheet from the county, it has.
it's not helpful. It's not very helpful.
yeah.
It's not very helpful.
I might add another reason for us kind of having a slightly higher bank charges this year is that just for our new board members to understand, we used to pay for a courier service that would deliver items back and forth between here and Alta. We lost that service. We had a temporary mechanism. We lost that. So what we've done this year is we've now created a UPS account, and we use UPS to move our books back and forth. What was happening though is because their net terms are like very short, so we were starting to get hit with late fees on every bill. So even though that's a small amount, but over the course of this fiscal year, it's maybe added up a little bit, but I've now rectified that because now I figured out I'm able to pay by a credit card. So I'm able to get, as soon as we get an invoice, pay it. So that's another reason in terms of the bank charges this fiscal year that has added a little bit more that we were not expecting. Okay, so.
Stella, I would ask that, if you look at the document year-to-date budget versus actuals,
Mhm.
I think I would ask that you consider putting, instead of the, for ongoing, reporting. It says July 2022 through June
Oops.
2023. If you could actually just have what the month ending that this is through, because I realize this is our full fiscal year budget. But it's hard to tell which period we're talking about when you're trying to reconcile year to date versus the whole year. So
Okay.
just if that were relabeled, that would be, I think, clearer for people.
So for example, with this one, if it had been July 22 through May
You betcha.
2023. Okay.
And it helps me going back and saying, okay, if I take the 3.8 million, yeah, if I take the 794,000 shortfall in revenue. And then back out the 500,000 and then 130,000, that's where I got my differential, so. Okay, thank you very much. I don't have any more questions. Are there any other questions that you might have, Marilee, or
No.
anybody else? Thank you. I would move then to approve the June 15th, 2023 consent agenda. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Right.
Thank you. Any opposed? Director's report. I think that's you.
That is me. I guess I will highlight the 3 things that are on the first page.
How about that?
Staffing and hiring, another ongoing process. We are very close to hiring a senior library assistant for services. We have done some interviews, and I would expect in the next week or so we'll be making an offer. So that position will be filled. We're having a lot of difficulty filling the part-time library assistant out at the library table. To date, we've received no applicants.
That's
And
difficult.
so we have at least a short-term plan in place. Staff will be working out there, taking turns each day. It's kind of a nice quiet place, take your laptop and you can probably get a lot of work done. So that's the short-term solution. We're just kind of trying to figure out what else we can do to recruit for that. And we still have 19 tech position open. The people who apply tend to have 0 skills, or they say they know how to use Microsoft Word, and that's about it.
I presume that's an issue between what we can pay them and what trained and experienced people in the field can make.
Yes, and there will be not a significant bump, but a sizable bump in July with the new salary plan. So perhaps that will make the position a little more enticing.
Yep, I have a question about that. Is this an added position or did someone leave and we're trying to refill a position?
Someone left in November and it's been vacant since then. I keep struggling, so.
Yeah,
And let's see, after this board meeting today, the recording studio that we've been working on will be opening. I believe Peter will be the podcast guinea pig.
Great.
So Veronica and Gary Silverberg will be here from the Wonder Institute and but we're working on trying to get reservation system up and running. And so we'll officially open to the public next week. And we've arranged to have one of the guys from the Wonder Institute come and offer a couple of hands-on classes to the public. So the page what the interest is. I know that a lot of people have been asking, when is it open? So there is a demand for podcasting and video recording. So it should be a big success. And I think you have the questions in your email. I think they're easy questions.
Okay, I hadn't seen any as of
They
As of
give it about
yesterday.
8:30
this
this
morning.
morning.
Oh, good. I have plenty of time to look at them.
And
I guess I'm winging it as I usually do.
you know the answers already.
I hope so.
The library kiosk,
Explain it on-
it was moved away from the library. I told you that last month, I don't
Yeah.
remember. It's sitting down at Adams Canyon at Road and Levy. Stella, Rick, and I went out to Owen Berkshire Park on Monday or Tuesday this week. And met with Steve Ashworth, Parks and Rec Director, and we identified a pretty sweet spot to place the kiosk in the park. Oh, really? That's good. Right at the ring, where the cattle run starts, the cattle run's no longer used, so
Oh, perfect.
we're gonna shift some fencing around and it'll be right on level with the parking lot, pavement, so
And do you have a system of entry and,
we're working on it.
you know,
Our IT coordinator administrator is looking into a couple of options for that, and Rick is working on determining if the electrical panel out there is sufficient and
when's your target launch?
late summer, early fall. That's what we're thinking, but from that with Rick yesterday, so. Unless we run into the inability to get contractors, which seems to be, so.
I just want to say, I don't know if it's appropriate for a board meeting or not, but our Wilson group called Wilson Advocacy is planning, looking forward to a spring celebration next year, kind of with the reopening of Hungry Jack's, the new Raptor Center, just all of these things going on in Wilson, and that'd be a great time to like call attention to the new kiosk
Yeah.
as well, and have some sort of event around in conjunction with that celebration.
Sure, we'll be there.
Good.
Or I'll be there, or somebody will be there.
Question about the kiosk as well. Have you all thought through who's responsible for sort of the making sure it's clean, and is that the library's function? Will that be a combination of library and Parks and Rec?
That'll be the library's responsibility, aside from the snow removal and
Right.
winter. They'll take care of it.
So are we burdening somebody else, or is this? I mean, is it not somebody that it's gonna fall under Rick's, I assume?
Provided the budget goes through, we've got some staffing changes with the outreach librarian position. It will be staff. And if there's maintenance needs, then yes, we will take care of that.
Do you have any update on passport services?
Sort of. We have completed the application packet. We have, I think, 7 staff who have expressed interest in getting certified. A couple of Spanish speakers, so that would be very beneficial. We have maybe sent the packet in.
I'm gonna do it today.
Okay, so the packet will be sent to the Colorado office, and then they review it and forward it on to Washington DC for review. I don't know how long that will take. They're very excited that we're taking it over. You guys been very enthusiastic. I know that the county court clerk's office has had to reduce the number of appointments available going forward because of getting new software and their work priorities are not passports. So there's going to be quite a demand. So hopefully we can get certified sooner than later.
Lisa, since you're remote, do you have any questions for Kip on his report?
I don't, thank you.
Is anybody else in the room?
Did the salary bump affect anyone whose housing depends on their salary being a certain amount?
Do not believe so in the library. I know that it's a concern of some people.
You mean disqualifying them for
Yeah.
housing?
So I think housing
They
rates,
did raise the,
but I didn't know how those two things matched up individually.
I haven't heard that anyone's been affected or will be affected, so I think we're okay.
One of the comments in one of the documents I read talked about how we were surprised at how expensive it was to translate some of our strategic planning document and other things.
Yes.
And it just, I know we do have Spanish speaking staff members. Is that something that is outside of their job purview that they could do?
They have been willing to do it,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just, the
It's
amount
not a
of, the amount of translation that we need to have done would be onerous on them.
Gotcha.
And it's really not in their job description.
Right. No, I just was curious.
Um,
Are we looking for alternatives or?
yes.
That there's some non-
We expect.
Well, I would think that there are some nonprofits that might be able to help us to some extent.
The county has recently contracted with Voices JH
Yeah.
for services, so it might be something that we could look through what the county has done. So
I would hope, because that seems like it's such a basic thing for us to be able to hopefully do and offer.
AI will do it.
Yeah, I'll do it in the future. I'm looking forward to my chat GPT 17 to be in hand with that here. Anything else that you'd like to discuss in the director's report, or that's pretty much it?
I guess since we're talking about the budget will be approved on the 25th or 26th of this month. At the moment, it looks like what the library requested is what's going to be approved. I believe they did approve the new salary plan and a 4% merit increase on employees anniversary date.
Well, it's quite the milestone. It's taking our fiscal budget up over $5 million. So it's quite the change. So that plus the wonderful effort of the foundation is going to push us closer to $6 million overall. So I congratulations to you all and good luck to Vicky's Mary Lee going forward. Anyway, foundation report. Diane?
Yes, thank you. So I brought some reports for the board
Sorry.
that shows our current fiscal year library enrichment spending versus what we budgeted. And Lisa, I emailed a copy to you. Does anyone else need one?
Thank you.
I emailed you 2 documents, but I might have hit 2 different email addresses. So you might. This is for the current fiscal year budget. And we are still obviously putting transactions into the system through June 30th. So this was as of today where we are. And we are currently under budget, which we tend to be at this, we tend to get a big push at the end for summer reading, some collections items and others, but some of these, I believe, Kip, your director's budget will have a bit more for library table to come through. And so this is a good idea of where we are for the current fiscal year's ask. Are there any questions about current?
And you do prepare this budget?
Yes, we work with the library staff. And so this year we started a new process for the budget requests. We created a simple 1-page funding request application that all of the library program managers and spenders will complete for all of each and every one of their programs. And then, and that is a simple document that talks about, what is the program's need, purpose, and describe it, and then talk about how they're going to gauge success for that individual program. And then there's also a spot where they can tie in the current strategic direction plan with how this fulfills any of those goals and priorities. And then, so I will be putting together a complete narrative, a Word document in a sense that summarizes all of that. And then I've also got for the new fiscal year, which I'll be passing out in just a moment, the spreadsheet that shows basically the numbers and how they shake out for the coming year.
Okay, and do you make those decisions or does that go, you take it to your board and then the board?
Yes, so the next step in the process. So right now we're compiling all the data for the board and the report summary. And then I will present this to our board this Friday for review. They'll have approximately almost 2 weeks. Our board meeting is June 28th. So they'll have a couple of weeks to review the document in full, and then our finance committee will review it a week prior to our board meeting to suss out any questions that the finance committee has for us. And then they'll go to the full board vote on June 28th. So all we do is the library staff prepares the ask. They then provide that to Kip. They submit that to Kip for total review and approval. Then Kip works with the library staff and then with me to go over any questions we might have. And then once those are all submitted, we create that summary report, both in Word format and then also in an Excel spreadsheet. And then that goes to our board for a final vote.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kip, should I hold questions like that? Are we going to get educated about all this in a board training, or is it okay to?
Some of
for
it will
everybody?
definitely be covered in board training.
Go ahead and ask.
I think you should ask.
Yeah, I think you should.
Okay,
Absolutely.
It helps everybody.
And I love to explain.
good.
Lisa, Vicky, do you have a question? I'm sorry. Okay. And this is the big launch for the new effort that Diana Kip has come up with, and leadership at the library to change how the foundation interfaces with staff in the enhancements. They used to be called grants, but it's really how there's more structure around and metrics around. If you have a project that you wanted to have funded, to write a proposal for that funding, that includes metrics on, how are you gonna measure whether this is a successful project or not? And it's going to really come back and help track what we're doing, and make sure that it fits within the strategic direction that has been adopted by the library this past spring. So.
And I've been reading about the possibility, as I understand it, of the foundation and Friends combining into one organization. Do we want to save that conversation for?
I'll go into that right after finance.
Right.
Thanks for asking. We are excited about that, to share that with you.
Reading your material, I love it. It's good.
Okay, so I have another report, which shows for the new year, and I apologize for one error, is my headers didn't go on every sheet, so the correct headers on page 2, but I'll update this so that all the headers, match. This is actually the library enrichment budget for the coming fiscal year 24. And, so you can see on the front, on the bottom of the front page right now, so this has not been submitted to our board yet. They have no idea what the ask is. So I think they're going to be pretty excited and encouraged to see some of the new proposals for from the library. So the total ask for this year is $786,245. Again, this is I have to go through this with a fine tooth comb to make sure that every single individual document was added to this sheet, but right now this looks like it's going to be it. So you can see director's fund is page 1, and then library enrichments for administrative services is on the next few pages. It's totaled on page 5 of 303,615. And the bulk of and you can see in the columns to the right what the ask was in fiscal year 23. So you can compare how that ask jumped and in what areas it jumped. So the far 2 columns on the right show the current fiscal year's ask, and then the new ones on the left. So you can see, for example, in administrative services, the facilities enhancements budget was significantly increased. Some of these, the rest of these, like promotions and VITA, stayed relatively the same. You can go on to see youth and teen. Their total is going to be on page 8, and then theirs had a pretty a moderate increase. They have some of their increases for new programs are in the teen department or tween department for new programming and a teen programmer staff position, a pilot position for this coming year. You can then go on page 11. Well, let's go backwards. I've got the teen adult programming on page 9 and 10. With a total summary on page 10. One of the new significant asks there is for a speaker series coming up that they're going to be collaborating with the Center for the Arts. And once we have that document, that's the Word document, which summarizes all of the specifics, then that's going to be a great way to dive in to see, you know, what are the details of each of these programs? Why are they important? That's going to be coming in the final summary document. Latino programming, a slight increase there. Alta, very, very slight increase over last year. Collections on page 13 with a total on page 15. That was a really large bump, and that's due to the fact that they have submitted total funding for Hoopla, the digital collection. They've submitted a request for total funding for that, which amounts to about $75,000 for the year.
So is that for Spanish language content?
No, that was last year, and you can see if you look at on the far right, the shelf, the under collections, under digital media, you see the program on the right called the shelf. That was the Spanish language content. It's on page 14 at the top right. That was submitted in this current fiscal year as an ask. It's not being resubmitted, and you can see on the left column for fiscal year 24, and that's due to extremely low participation numbers that didn't justify the expense. I don't know if Kip, you want to talk about that at all, but anyway, so that's each and every one of the libraries departments. Anybody have any questions about these?
So, pure personal interest, the Ada Limon honorarium, does that mean she's actually coming, or it's a hope that she's?
It's booked and contracted. Some of this is top secret, folks.
In a public forum.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
No, yes, you are correct. That is booked. That has been booked. And we are excited to also share, it's not on this because
Where is Jason?
Jason Reynolds. So teen author Jason Reynolds The reason it's not on here is
Oh,
because
because it's fall. of next
fall of
year.
next year, so it will fall into the fiscal year 25 budget, but his deposit will actually came out of the current spending budget for paid to podium, yeah. So we have two exciting authors coming, and
So seriously, can we talk about it?
absolutely.
Okay.
That would have been hard to get the number. Absolutely. We haven't done any kind of advertising yet, but people are talking already. Yes. So you're.
So have you poised over your phone to get tickets to that one? Because it's gonna, or to get the tickets, because they sell out so fast.
It'll be like we did for Ta-Nehisi Coast. I'm not sure if you were there, but the library.
I didn't get tickets. That
So-
was.
Yeah, so the library does preliminary announcements through the media and through the library's newsletter to tell folks exactly what date and time tickets become available. And then, and as you can see with Ta-Nehisi, I think it filled up in an hour and a half, all of the
I was sitting
registration.
at my computer with everything filled in, and when it hit noon and the button went live, I pressed the button.
And you got tickets?
I probably got the first two. I
Ah,
was sitting there for 5 minutes waiting, like, and when it went live, yeah.
You guys know what it's like to sign up for child.
Speed passes.
Yeah.
The resort.
So it'll be this exact same process as you. You'll know well in advance. of
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, yeah, I was sitting at my desk.
I learned my lesson.
The team position. Am I incorrect in thinking that we've had that position before?
In
The library,
years,
like,
years ago,
years
we
past?
did have,
Like 10
not
years
since I've
ago
been,
or something?
not since I've been.
And
So we would like to,
has the board seen a job description or a salary, or is that?
we already have a job position called
because it
program
existed?
coordinator,
Okay.
so we're just going to. Fill,
That,
it's in the budget. They combined all of the program coordinator positions in the one job description. As part of the salary.
Any other questions? Okay, great. So I can jump real quickly to Friends and Foundation. So we just had our merger committee final meeting on Friday the 9th, where we did the complete proposal for how this merger is going to look logistically, structurally, how we define various new committees and positions, et cetera. And it's taken a few months. We've had quite a number of back and forth meetings with the Friends, and everyone came to a final agreement on Friday. It looks fantastic. Everyone's pleased. And so now the next step is a very simple process. We have a proposal that we created that everyone at that committee approved, and the committee voted to make a full recommendation to both boards for approval. Once that occurs, I believe the Friends already met for their final board meeting of the year. So they are going to be doing the vote via email. So they'll require 100% approval, and then it's going to go to our board on the June 28th board meeting for approval. Once that happens, then we'll start working on all of these details, the legal details, and all the filing of paperwork and such to create. And then, of course, we're going to be launching a communications plan to share with the community, as well as having an event where we invite folks, especially all the wonderful volunteers and supporters of the library who are currently Friends. And then, of course, foundation supporters and donors to come together to celebrate this new combined organization. So we're really excited. It's almost a done deal. We're that close.
So does it require creating a new organization that encompasses both, or can you modify one or the other to encompass both?
That's a great question. It'll be actually a very simple process. We're in the process right now of restating our bylaws. And so the new structure will be incorporated into the bylaws restatement. We've met with our attorney, who said it's a simple process of dissolving the Friends 501c3 and then refiling our articles of incorporation to be renamed as the Foundation and Friends. So it's a pretty simple process. And then, of course, transferring all the assets over to the foundation's bank accounts. And then we're going to be establishing 2 new board seats. Within our bylaws, we allow for 13, a board of 13. We currently are a board of 11. And so once that the board of 13 is going up for approval to our board, on June 28th. Once that approved, they'll allow room for 2 new seats for current Friend board members to occupy it as part of the new organization. So, any other questions? All right.
Wonderful, very exciting time. And I think that probably incorporates a Friends report as well.
Yeah,
But,
I'm sure.
yeah. Super. So matters for board members, library staff, and supporting organizations. Thank you. Diana.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do you want to summarize our tri-board meeting since we hosted it? It was mainly you and Diana that organized
I
it.
think we've kind of already summarized everybody's report. We talked about the Friends Foundation merger, we talked about the library kiosk, we talked about the budget.
New board members.
Oh, yes.
But for Vicky and for Mary Lee, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but so if you are, I apologize. About 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, we as a board, well, the 3 board organizations, the Friends of the Foundation and the library, decided it was best to sit down quarterly, informally, no notes are taken, just discuss what's going on, just to make sure that everybody knows sort of the minutia as well as some of the larger programs that that each organization is working on. I think there was a feeling 3 years ago when I first came on, because me and I first came on board.
There are a lot of feelings.
There were a lot of feelings, but there were a lot of feelings that the communications could really be improved, and there were misunderstandings of what was going on. And anyway, this was an effort to really try and sit down, and I think it's been rather helpful to everyone. And I think the informal nature has been great. We've had generally it's Kip, the board chair of each organization, and then a guest from that from each of the organizations as well. As I'll remind Vicky and Mary Lee, when you have more than 3 of a board member together, at least on the library board, that's a meeting. So we keep it to 2, no more than 2 board members. But it's been great, and I hope you guys continue it. I think it's well worthwhile. I think Diana and Kip are going to work on the name of that, because it's not tri-board anymore, but they'll figure it out. And I think that's probably a good segue into the next subject, which is the Board of County Commissioners quarterly update. So also trying to enhance communications with the Board of County Commissioners. I think it started when one of the former county commissioners walked by the COVID closed library building and said, well, they're closed. They're closed. Why would we have such a big budget for the library? And not understanding necessarily what the services that were going on during COVID, which were a lot more online. Again, the library board said it's important to try and keep the commissioners regularly informed. And so I have tried to write on behalf of the board and circulate to the board members for their input, a summary of what's happened in the past quarter, and then we present it, we deliver it to the Board of County Commissioners once a quarter, usually covering the prior 3 months, and go to their voucher meeting where we are there to answer questions. And I think in the 2+ years that we've been doing this, we've had a lot of praise for what we're doing, but not a whole lot of questions. So it's either been self-explanatory or they've just been happy with what is going on. So I would hope that you all will continue to do that. There is the Board of County Commissioners are set up to have a liaison to the library and to a couple of their other boards. But I think you might see a library commissioner at one of our meetings, but because we go to them, I think that's mainly how we're gonna make this. I'm sure Abigail's gonna do that. Did they get rid of the?
They're sort of getting rid of it, or phasing out the liaison,
Okay.
or it's considered even more.
Just to show you how
discretionary.
dated I've already become.
It's pretty recent, I mean.
Okay.
Frankly, none of them were really doing it, so they decided to, it's just people can go to, commissioners can go to board meetings. It was originally intended to be that element of communication where things would come up at the Board of County Commissioners. That at least one of them would know, oh, this would affect the library or the Historic Preservation Board, but since that wasn't happening, it actually makes the quarterly report, I think, even more useful.
Well, I think one of the major things, challenges that Nina and I faced when we got on this board was. Just the communication side from the library out and what was going on, what the board actually did. And I think one of the things that has been a great thing that all of us have done is try to improve that communication. I think I'm very happy that they're having this, it's been pretty positive. At least articles in the newspaper for the last 2 years. Because that wasn't always the case, but I think I think the communication's gotten much better. It's been thanks to everybody that's really gone on. So moving forward, I'm trying to move a little bit more rapidly, sorry. I really appreciate everybody, this board meeting today, obviously, a lot of the documents hit 24, within the last 24 hours. And yeah, I know that's not the intention of staff. And we have a goal as an organization to have materials for meetings in the hands of the board. And we try the weekend before, so we have enough time to appropriately process. And one of the things that transitioning to the county is we're getting to the financials, basically the day before, 2 days before the board meetings based on this system. And my recommendation for the ongoing board members is that as you set your meetings, which will be at your next the July board meeting, you set the calendar for the upcoming fiscal year. You consider moving the library board meetings to the 4th week of the month from the 3rd week of the month. There will be 1 month where you'll have to kind of catch up on financials, but and vouchers. But I think that will make life for both staff and the community and our oversight easier, because in fact it will give us a little bit more time to you all a little bit more time to have proper consideration of it. Assuming that the library doesn't take that extra time and
There's always something else to
yeah,
build.
exactly.
Or the
But-
county attorney.
I'm sorry.
Or the county
Or the
attorney.
county, yeah. So that's my recommendation. The next item is the board bylaw discussion of proposed bylaws revisions. Abigail, would you like to say a word or two about that?
Sure, you know, the thing that was sent you at 5 o'clock yesterday.
Right. Thank you for noting the changes.
So, hold on, I'm trying to.
So it's the revised bylaws document,
That was
but that was, did it change from? Because I got that document over a week ago. So it changed from.
I sent you the document from
Oh,
the
yeah.
May meeting
Yeah, oh,
and the document that Abigail sent out. She's gonna talk-
question, was the document that she was sent, the one that was.
Part of the board packet at the May.
Before.
Right, which was
Before the
not the
discussion.
one that I also showed up with at the last minute and we went through in the meeting.
Oh, it's quite possible.
It probably was the
had a
earlier
change of
draft.
version of that.
Right,
Okay.
let me actually,
So
Can I
apparently
see
I
it?
was at a
Yeah.
loss when I.
no, that's okay.
No, it was the May, it was
Right,
the May.
so
agenda stuff.
has, this is 2 drafts later and that's, it's.
Is this the most
similar.
recent draft?
No,
Be prior,
if
earlier, 2
what was
drafts
the 5
earlier.
o'clock
If you go to Teams.
teams?
And that's where I'm
Open
having
for-
trouble, unfortunately. It's not letting me in.
Frame and extra, well, actually, let me go through it because we're not voting on this until next.
Yeah,
week.
just
It's a
go through
special
it, and I
meeting.
can take.
So let me go through the history. The other thing that might be useful, even though it's a little time consuming, but I did it yesterday, so. There's the current board bylaws, and bylaws are intended, this isn't hard for new board members, are really only address the management of the board itself.
Okay.
How they manage their meetings and whatnot. And there was a sense some time ago, a couple of months ago, that some of the board members and staff that they wanted the bylaws to be more encompassing. So it would include things like some of the resolutions on freedom of information and meeting procedures. A lot of documents where typically it's like 3 or 4 different documents. I actually all sort of got incorporated into the bylaws, and I think it's safe to say the intent was so there'd be one document that people could easily reference without digging through like the library binder or binder that is this, that would have reminders of duties and how to do things and whatnot. So what you're looking at, I think, was the initial draft that the staff and a few board members came up with. And then that was presented at the last meeting in May, but literally the morning of, I completely reworked that. And there's a Word version. What you have in front of you today that was sent was that version, and the version that I reworked, we actually went through, and I think it's actually a really useful discussion because I watched it again on the video from the minutes. If you just go to the last meeting, just in case you're interested, I go through
And I
these
did read those
provisions.
minutes.
Yeah, if I went through these, every single paragraph with the board, which I think was useful because this is such a significant change, but it also worked as sort of pseudo board training, or some of that discussion. And so what you're seeing in front of you is that draft that I brought in at the May meeting, and the red line are the things that in that board meeting last May, the board either changed or asked for, alternative language. And that's what I'm just going to go through with people real quick. Not the whole thing, just the changes, but the changes are just right out of what we all talked about at the last meeting. And one of the things we talked about is since the 30 days hasn't passed since presentment, you're gonna have a special meeting next week to adopt this. And any changes you decide upon today, Kip and I will get a final document, and then the special meeting that will be next Wednesday, literally, we just need a quorum to show up and vote on it, and then people can go on. Okay, so.
Yeah, I do have the.
So
Abigail or Kip, is it 9 o'clock on Wednesday?
I have a question for the 3 board members that are continuing and that are on, and I think Vicky may be on, but she has a beautiful view on those. Is it your preference to have more time to think through this and deal with this at the first board meeting in July? Or are you, since the committee has done this already, and this is reflecting what we have worked through over the last year, is it your sentiment to get this done in a special meeting? I don't have a preference one way or the other. I just, since we're this close to a change, I just am asking the question. And I'm not gonna add. No, I don't. So I guess, Lisa, do you have a view?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's maybe a question for Mary Lee and Vicky. I mean, I feel like I have lived through the changes. I think they're really good. I'm all for doing it next week.
Wow, is that yours as well?
I mean, it's not gonna take that long.
No, it's gonna take 5 minutes. But I just, I wanted to give the opportunity for you guys to at least.
I'm happy to do it next week.
Okay. So let's do that, but I think we had a committee that was set up for since last fall. And this was the result of that work, so I think it's great, and you guys have the ability to continue to look at this as you get down the road. That's,
And I would encourage you, just the video minutes of the last meeting, we went through this paragraph by paragraph almost.
it's raining a lot. you might-
Because
if you have
Peter,
nothing else to do.
Peter wasn't there to make me go faster,
Yeah.
so we spent some time on it.
Um,
So. Real quick, right off the bat, I just want to flag what Peter just mentioned with. One of the things in here is the new rule that we actually did last year, but it's also in these new bylaws where you adopt your meeting calendar by resolution at the beginning of the fiscal year. But there's a default rule built in that is the traditional library board meeting day of the third Thursday of the month. If we're going to move to a fourth, and maybe this is just something we can flag and think about and decide on Wednesday real quick. But if people do think the fourth Thursday of the month is better for getting the financials and that sort of thing, I feel like the default, we should change it in the default rule, but,
I think you should make my
mhm,
my sentiment is these bylaws should be, has as much flexibility
Right.
as possible for the board. And so to the extent that we've not changed it to be that way, if there's some more tweaking, that'd be great.
And the new board members, whether or not you watched the video from last month, if you look at these documents fresh between now and Wednesday and have a question, you can also call Kip, but also call me. I might have a better sense of where it was and why it is the way it is today. If you have any questions. in
What's the
next few
video?
days.
I missed that.
So
Oh.
all of our meetings are recorded,
Oh, okay.
and if you go back onto the video recording of the May meeting,
Okay.
you can sit and just be enthralled by
And-
the data, and you can do that for many of the meetings in the last 3 years.
So that includes the discussion. of-
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you
Yeah.
go to the website for the county and it's agendas and minutes, there'll be a link that says, to agendas and minutes, and it takes you, I think, to the county site.
Yeah.
And under minutes, you'll see a little icon of a little camera. You click on it and it brings you up a YouTube video of the owl and this whole thing, and then you could go towards the end where you see me start to talk with my cape on. Because it was this, but it got stuck behind a chair. So I couldn't figure out why I kept going like this the whole meeting, so it looks like I have a Superwoman cape on in the entire meeting.
Which is
But
probably a good thing.
it's actually, I actually think it's a useful discussion. But otherwise, just read everything and call me, and that's shorter. So real quick, yeah,
Yeah, can I?
I know.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, because they can read
He's
what
nudging
you
me.
said.
So all of these changes are right out of the last meeting. So first, we had noticed the mission statement was the old mission statement. So I updated it, and instead of mission statement, I just said library vision and mission and took it right off the strategic mission direction. So I did that. The other change was this we did not discuss, but I added it real quick. At the end of the description of officers for secretary and treasurer, I just added to make it clear that in the absence of the chair and the vice chair serving as presiding officer in a meeting, the secretary or the treasurer could also do that if because that wasn't in here explicit. The change to committees you see is just because that language should have been there to begin with. It missed getting transferred over, so the section made no sense without it. On page 5 in Article 9 board meetings, see regular meetings. This is where it says that absent a resolution at the beginning of the fiscal year establishing a calendar for meetings, that the default rule is the traditional third Thursday, which it had said 8:30. People asked that it say 9, so I made that change. But if we're thinking the fourth Thursday is better, we can change that between now and then. And then,
Is there any other language that could be considered that would be more general for a default, like if the county changed their
mhm.
budgeting reporting, that we might need to change our meeting again at some time?
We would,
Like,
well, first of all, the flexibility is in the resolution. So if you're gonna set your meeting at the beginning of each fiscal year. So people should actually look at their calendars before they come to the July meeting, because that's when we'll be setting the meeting schedule for the next fiscal year. This is just a default rule. So if for some reason the resolution wasn't there, it'll be what the rule used to be, which is third Thursday of the month at the library. That's it. So that's just a catch-all. So
Yeah,
The
and
flexibility
what if you
is
set-
in other
as you,
areas.
as you go down in your calendar year. And you decide that there's an exception because. The fourth Thursday, you know, if
it's
you
Christmas,
decided it's
you
Christmas
know,
or whatever.
Hanukkah or New
You
Year's.
guys have the ability to change those, and it's really trying to. Yeah, some years you might have somebody who has school age kids that you want to meet at 9:30 in the
Spring
morning.
break.
Others that, like, as I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning, love to have these meetings at 6 a.m.
Yeah, to change the time.
You know, you can change. And last year I was out
It
of
worked
town.
really well.
at the- And they changed the time. From 8:30 to 9. Anyway, it's as long as there's a lot of flexibility built in.
So all of the changes you see in this red line are right out of the meeting. The one that actually warrants a little bit of discussion is there was a lot of, if everyone would turn to page 9, which is in, and we're looking at Article 11, board duties and responsibilities, which is, and the combination of paragraph J, I, and J. So there was a lot of discussion at the last board meeting about how this would work. And rather than specific direction, the board asked me to sort of come up with something based on this discussions that were had. And first of all, let me see, I'm trying to figure out how to say this quickly. And I don't think that's possible. So you don't actually have to have this in here, first of all. And I think both Peter and Lisa looked at this yesterday and they both feel that the language.
Yeah.
Well, you were my committee at the last meeting, which I didn't realize till I went back and watched the video.
Yeah.
I think some of the language here came out of, you know, when you become a new board member, the county commissioners who appoint you have you sign the board member expectations sheet that says that, you know, you will attend at least 75% of the meetings. And I think in the past, there have been issues or concerns, and not just with this board, with what happens if there's a board member who maybe isn't coming and isn't communicating with the board on why they're missing meetings, whether it's for personal reasons or whatnot. And you don't have to have anything in your bylaws that say, if that happens, we'll do X. But, you know, it was drafted because at the time it was thought that maybe we should have something to sort of require the board to take specific action. And part of the issue if a board member, of course, isn't showing up, is that it puts a big burden on the other board members, because it's harder. If one person is consistently missing, then it's less possible for other people to miss when they need to in order to maintain a quorum and continue to do the board business. So if you have someone who's missing board meetings for a personal reason, and the board's comfortable with that, they think it's a valuable board member, they're willing to accommodate the needs for extra, you know, and there's less of an excuse nowadays to miss board meetings because you can participate by Zoom now. So,
Yeah, may I have a
Mhm.
thought? Sorry. Basically, we all get along, we all communicate with each other. And the thought is, if somebody's not, it's derelict in their duty over a period of time, it's really impacting the board. We're gonna have a conversation with that person, figure out what's going on. I mean, but we communicate all the time. And if we can't get in touch with them, then at some point in time, we're gonna say at a board meeting, maybe we should. let's authorize somebody from the board to go off and talk to the county commissioners and say, hey, we got a problem. That's in essence what we're trying.
Yeah, that's, and there was a lot of discussion at the last meeting about whether if someone missed more than 3 meetings, whether they needed permission. If they needed permission, would it be the board chair or would it be the full board? And then if they didn't have permission, would you notify the commissioners? And would that be discretionary? You must notify the commissioners, or you can notify the commissioners, which of course you can no matter what. So it was a bit of a circular argument. So if you look, this is the language I came up with that just straight up says, if someone either doesn't live in Teton County anymore, for one, you could also take that out because it's sort of a duh, but or if they're missing X more than what the board expectation sheet you're given without, you have to notify the commissioners because they should know that the person they appointed is not fulfilling that expectation.
Thank you.
I know,
Let me,
but allows you to say we're okay with that.
may I suggest, please, since you have outlined the changes and a marker that, and we're gonna have a special meeting next Wednesday, that we all look at the revision and please send an email to Abigail tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday with questions, and she'll get back to you and ask. I appreciate the summary, but we've got somebody who actually I know is, people are at work.
Yeah.
And so I would like to move the meeting on.
Okay.
Because we have to go to executive session. Thank you. Abigail.
Mhm.
Good work. Thank you. Yeah, great. I'm now going into the recognition of board members.
Okay, well, we have
Thanks.
2 board members who will be departing after next week's special meeting. Peter Stalker and Nina Lenz have served 3 years very admirably on this board. Oh, yes, you did. I think their contributions have really made a difference in what I do at the library before I came on board. And I think they deserve more than this little
We're
gift here.
unfortunately for the library and staff and the board, we're not going away. We're just changing our roles. And we're always going to be part of the Friends. Well, thank you very much.
A small token from
Thank
the
you.
foundation in the library.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It has been a privilege to serve with this group and with this such talented staff and foundation and friends. So thank you. It's been an interesting 3 years and really start that. And I think with that, we have to pay the vouchers. Lisa?
Yep, that's me. I move to approve the vouchers.
I will second that motion. Are there any, is there any discussion? Is there anything that came out in your review that we need to talk about? No?
It all looked fine.
Yeah.
Um, Lisa, there is one voucher that didn't make it into the stack that you reviewed the other day, so Stan just signed it this morning, and it will also need Chip's signature.
All
And
right.
it actually was a per diem for me to attend the ALA conference next week.
Great.
But Stan signed it right before the meeting, so.
With that as a discussion, I will take a vote. All in favor of approving the voucher, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. I will move to go into an executive session to discuss a personnel matter in accordance with Wyoming statute 16-4-405. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 I would, we have come out of executive session back into our general session and no action was taken in the executive session. I would take a motion to adjourn the June board meeting of the Teton County Library. Do I have a second? I will make a motion to
Oh,
adjourn. Do I have a second of that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? I hope not. Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing us, I guess we have, we decided 8:30. Next week is our special.
And-
Zoom.
And we'll get an email with the link.
Informally, I'm sorry, I guess we, well,